The night was colder than anyone could remember on the planet Tarsus 9. The wind howled through broken metal walls of the refugee camp, carrying fine dust and snow across the silent tents. A single lamp flickered weakly outside a shelter made from scrap and plastic sheets. Inside, a small human boy named Eli lay awake, staring at the dim light that danced on the ceiling. Eli was only 5 years old, but he had already seen more hunger and fear than most adults ever would. The human refugees had arrived on Tarsus 9 after their colony was destroyed in the border wars. They had lost their homes, families, and cities. Now they lived under strict alien guards, surviving on whatever food was left from supply ships. Eli's blanket was thin and old, patched together with rags. Still, he held it tight every night because it was warm and soft. His mother had made it before she vanished during the evacuation. He could still remember her voice saying, "Stay kind no matter what the world becomes." That night, the wind grew stronger. Metal sheets banged. The camp's power flickered again, plunging the shelters into near darkness. Eli heard a sound, soft like someone crying. It came from outside. He sat up unsure. His guardian, an older human named Jonas, was asleep beside the fire drum. "Jonas?" Eli whispered. No answer. The man was snoring deeply, exhausted from working all day. Eli hesitated, then stood up and wrapped his blanket around his shoulders. He pushed the tent flap open. The cold stabbed into him like knives. His small feet crunched on the frozen ground as he followed the sound of the crying. Behind a pile of old cargo crates, he found them. 2 small alien children about his age, huddled together. Their skin was pale blue, almost glowing under the moonlight. Their thin arms clutched each other as they shivered. Frost clung to their hair and lashes. Their clothes were torn and too thin for the freezing night. Eli's eyes widened. He had never been this close to aliens before. The other humans always said the Varakeen were dangerous. They were the reason humans were trapped on this world in the first place. Adults whispered terrible stories about how they treated prisoners. But these 2 didn't look dangerous. They looked terrified. One of them looked up at Eli, her eyes glowed faintly yellow. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling. "Cold. So cold." Eli's heart squeezed. He didn't understand their words perfectly, but he could see the pain in their faces. His own lips trembled, not just from the cold, but from something deep inside. Pity. He looked down at his blanket, then back at the twins. It was his only blanket. Without it, he would freeze tonight. But he remembered his mother's words. He stepped forward and gently placed the blanket around the twins. They gasped softly as warmth touched their skin. Eli smiled, even though his teeth were chattering. "Here," he said softly. "You can have it." The little boy alien tried to speak, but coughed instead. His sister looked at Eli with wide eyes. Why help us?" she asked in broken words. Eli shrugged. "Because you're cold." The 2 aliens stared at him for a moment as if they didn't believe what they heard. Then the girl whispered something to her brother and they pulled the blanket closer around themselves. Eli turned to go, but before he left, he smiled again. "You'll be okay now," he said. "It's warm." As he walked away, the wind cut across his face like glass. His small body shook, but he didn't stop. He didn't want to see them suffer. When he reached his tent again, he crawled beside the fire barrel and tried to warm himself, but his fingers had already gone numb. From the shadows behind the crates, the alien twins watched him disappear. They were too weak to move, but they whispered softly to each other. They had never seen a human up close, never expected one to show kindness. Their people had told them humans were greedy, violent, heartless. Yet this boy had given away the only warmth he had. Far above on a metal tower, a dark figure watched the whole scene through a scope. His armor glowed faintly with the mark of the Varakeen command. He zoomed in on the boy's face and frowned. "A human child," he muttered. "Giving to ours? Impossible." He closed his visor, sending a signal back to the central dome. "Mark this one," he said coldly. "The boy may be useful or dangerous." As Eli drifted into a shallow, cold sleep, snow began to fall again, covering the ground and the small footprints he left behind. The night swallowed his kindness. But not for long, because somewhere in the alien district, 2 young hearts remembered the warmth of one small human boy, and that memory would soon shake 2 worlds. A pale sun rose over Tarsus 9, weak and cold. The wind had stopped screaming, but the air still carried a bitter chill. Snowflakes clung to the metal walls of the camp like ash from a dead fire. The world felt quiet. Too quiet. Inside a small shelter made of cracked steel sheets, Jonas woke to the sound of coughing. He turned and froze. The little human boy, Eli, was lying on the floor near the burnt-out fire barrel. His lips were pale and his fingers were stiff with cold. "Eli," Jonas shouted, rushing to lift him. The boy's skin was like ice. He pulled Eli close and wrapped him in an old jacket, trying to bring back warmth. "What were you doing outside, kid? You'll freeze out there." Eli blinked weakly and mumbled. "They were cold. I gave them my blanket," Jonas frowned. "Who?" But before the boy could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. Jonas opened it carefully. A patrol officer stood outside, wrapped in a heavy coat with the human refugee badge on his arm. "Everything all right in here?" the guard asked, glancing around. "There were reports of movement last night." Jonas nodded quickly. "Just the wind," he lied, not wanting trouble. The guard grunted and moved on. When Jonas turned back, Eli had already drifted back to sleep, clutching nothing but thin air where his blanket used to be. Outside the camp, behind the storage yard, two small figures moved quietly. The alien twins from the night before, Rena and Rill, were still wrapped in Eli's old blanket. It smelled faintly of smoke and earth, of human hands. They huddled together in an alley between towering machines, watching the camp from afar. Rill's small horns glimmered in the light. "He gave it to us," he whispered. "The human child." Rena nodded, still confused. "But why? Humans hate us. Even their grown ones look at us like beasts." Rill didn't answer. Instead, he pulled the blanket closer around her shoulders. "It was warm," he said softly. "Like sunlight." They sat in silence for a while until a shadow fell over them. A tall Varakeen soldier stood there, armor gleaming black. "You two again," he hissed. "You left the district after curfew. You know the punishment." Rena trembled but stepped forward. "Please, Commander," she said. The soldier stopped when he saw the blanket. His red eyes narrowed. "Where did you get that?" Rill swallowed hard. "A human gave it to us." The commander stared at them for a long moment, then turned his gaze toward the camp walls in the distance. "A human," he repeated slowly, as if the word itself was hard to believe. Strange, he didn't punish them. Instead, he told them to go to the elders' quarters immediately. The twins obeyed, clutching the blanket between them as they walked through the icy streets. The elder of the Varakeen clan was old, his scales faded to gray. His name was Taran Vek, and his word still held power. When the twins told him what had happened, he listened in silence. The room was dim, lit only by a single crystal lamp. "So," Taran said at last, "a human child helped our young? Are you certain?" "Yes," Rena said. "He gave us this." She held up the blanket. The elder's golden eyes studied the soft, torn fabric. He reached out with clawed fingers, touched it, and paused. "Warmth from a human," he murmured. "Strange days indeed," he looked at the twins. "You will return this gift to him, but not empty-handed." Rill tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Taran turned to a chest beside his chair and pulled out a small box made of crystal. Inside, a faint blue light pulsed. "Take this," he said. "It is a heater stone. It can warm a room for a full night. Deliver it to the boy quietly." Rena's eyes widened. "But the guards will—" "Go," the elder interrupted. "The future often begins with foolish kindness." That evening, as the human camp prepared for another freezing night, two shadows slipped past the outer fence. Rena and Rill moved quickly between tents until they reached a small shelter. They left the box and the folded blanket at the door. Before leaving, Rill whispered, "Thank you, little human," then placed a crystal feather on top, an ancient Varakeen sign of gratitude. When Jonas opened the door the next morning, he found the items. He didn't understand the markings, but when he opened the box, warm light spread through the whole shelter. Eli stirred, feeling gentle heat on his face. He smiled faintly and whispered, "They weren't bad." Jonas looked down at him. "Who?" "The blue kids," Eli said softly. "They came back." Jonas didn't answer. He stared out the doorway at the twin sets of small footprints vanishing into the snow. Something deep inside him began to change. A quiet thought that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't as simple as us and them. Above the camp, alien drones circled in silence, recording everything. And far away in the Varakeen command dome, Elder Terran watched the footage with a slow, knowing smile. The boy has no idea, he murmured, what door he just opened. A soft fog rolled over the camp that night, muffling every sound. The humans huddled inside their metal shelters, whispering about the strange light that had filled Jonas's tent the night before. Some said it was alien trickery. Others swore it was a sign. Maybe the Varakeen finally wanted peace. Eli didn't care about rumors. He sat cross-legged near the glowing heater stone, tracing its blue light with his tiny fingers. It was warm and beautiful, unlike anything he had seen before. When he touched it, he felt something gentle like a heartbeat, slow and alive. Jonas watched him quietly. The boy had color in his face again, though he still coughed now and then. "You sure you didn't steal that, kid?" Jonas asked half seriously. Eli shook his head. "They gave it back. The twins. They said thank you." Jonas sighed, rubbing his eyes. "Aliens don't say thank you. They take. They command. They—" He stopped when he saw Eli looking up at him, eyes wide and honest. There was no fear, no anger, just calm faith. "You really believe they're good?" Eli nodded. "They were cold. I helped them. Now they helped me." Outside, snow drifted silently through the metal alleys. The camp lights flickered as a faint hum grew in the distance, a sound so deep it vibrated in the chest. Jonas frowned and stepped outside to look. Over the far ridge, 3 faint blue lights appeared in the fog, moving slowly toward the camp. "Ships," he whispered. The guards at the gate raised their weapons. "Unidentified approach." "Stay inside," one shouted. Panic rippled through the shelters. Mothers pulled their children close. Men grabbed anything that could be used as a weapon. The camp had been attacked before, and nobody trusted surprise visits. Jonas ran back inside. "Eli, stay down." But the boy stood up and looked through the crack in the wall. His eyes widened. "It's them," he whispered. "The twins. The ships didn't attack. They stopped just outside the camp fence." The engines died with a deep sigh, and from the mist stepped 3 tall Varakeen figures, 2 soldiers and 1 smaller shape between them, carrying a box wrapped in shimmering fabric. Jonas's stomach twisted. "They're coming here." The guards aimed their rifles. "Stop right there. State your purpose." The lead alien lifted his hand slowly. "We come in peace," he said in rough but clear English. His voice was deep and calm. "We bring thanks." The crowd went silent. Under the soldiers' protection, the smaller figure stepped forward. It was Rena, the alien girl. Her brother stood behind her, holding the same silk blanket Eli had given them. Eli couldn't wait. Before Jonas could stop him, he ran out the door. "Rena!" he called. Everyone gasped as the human boy ran straight toward the aliens. Guards shouted for him to stop, but Eli didn't hear them. He only saw 2 faces he remembered, faces that had once been cold and scared, now smiling gently. Rena knelt down, her glowing eyes soft. "You're warm now," she said shyly. Eli grinned. "You came back." Rill handed him the box. Inside were bright orbs, small and round, each glowing like a star. "Food," he said, "and warmth. For your people." Jonas rushed forward, heart pounding. "Step back, Eli," he barked, but stopped when the alien soldiers did something no human expected. They bowed. Deeply, the camp fell silent. Even the guards lowered their rifles a little. Rena stood up and said something in her own tongue, then translated. "Our elder said a single act of kindness can melt a wall of ice. We bring this so no one in your camp will sleep cold again." The words hung in the air, soft but powerful. Jonas didn't know what to say. No alien had ever spoken like that. He took the box carefully, feeling its warmth spread through his gloves. "Tell your elder," he said slowly. "Humans remember kindness too." Rena smiled. "We know." She touched Eli's shoulder lightly, a friendly gesture, quick and shy, then turned to leave. But as the Varakeen walked back to their ships, Jonas noticed something strange. On the back of their armor, faint symbols glowed, marks of the High Council, not just soldiers. These weren't simple messengers. Why would the Council send royal kin here? A guard whispered. Jonas felt a chill. "Because of him," he said quietly, looking at Eli. When the ships lifted off, the fog scattered, revealing a sky full of stars. Eli watched until the lights vanished. He clutched the silk blanket, now neatly folded again, and whispered, "They'll come back." I know they will. From the shadows near the gate, a hidden camera blinked red. Someone was watching from far away. Data streamed to the Varakeen command dome, and to someone else deep in the human fleet orbiting above Tarsus 9. A voice crackled through the comms. A human child and alien royalty? Keep watching. Something big is about to happen. The morning after the alien visit, the entire refugee camp buzzed with whispers. No one could believe what they had seen the night before. The Varakeen, once called monsters by every human in the camp, had come peacefully, bowing before a child. People gathered in groups, arguing in low voices. It was a trick, one man said. They're softening us up before another attack. No, an old woman replied. Didn't you see the way they bowed? Aliens don't fake that. Something's changed. Rumor turned into wildfire, spreading from tent to tent until even the guards couldn't ignore it. But in the middle of the noise, Eli sat quietly outside his shelter, tracing shapes in the snow with a stick. His blanket rested on his shoulders again, the same one he had given away days ago. But now it was repaired with silver threads. It shimmered faintly under the pale sun. Jonas came out holding a mug of hot broth. He looked tired. You've caused quite a storm, kid. Eli smiled up at him. I just helped. Jonas sighed. Yeah, and now the whole camp thinks you started some kind of miracle. Eli looked away. They were cold. That's all. But the truth was, even Jonas couldn't shake what he'd seen. The alien's eyes, the bow, the words of gratitude, it was all too real to be a trick. He had lived through years of war. Lies had a certain smell. This didn't. Later that day, the camp's central alarm sounded, a short, sharp tone that meant visitors. The gates opened slowly and a group of human officers entered, their uniforms bright and clean compared to the dusty camp. Their leader, Commander Rusk, was a tall man with silver hair and cold eyes. He didn't smile. Where's the boy? He demanded as soon as he stepped inside Jonas's shelter. Jonas stiffened. Why? Because, Rusk said, stepping closer. Our surveillance drones recorded last night's event. Alien ships entered restricted space. They delivered materials directly to your shelter. That's unauthorized contact. Eli peeked out from behind Jonas's leg. They just brought food, he said softly. Rusk looked down at him, studying the small face. You think kindness means safety, boy? Those creatures killed thousands of humans during the border wars. Don't let their glowing eyes fool you. Jonas clenched his fists. He's 5 years old, Commander. Let it go. Rusk turned, glaring. You'll keep him quiet. No more talks with aliens, no wandering near the district. If the council hears about this, they'll shut the camp down and take the boy for questioning. He left as coldly as he arrived, his boots leaving deep prints in the snow. When silence returned, Jonas looked down at Eli, who stared at the floor. You heard him? You can't talk to them again. Eli's voice was small, but they didn't hurt anyone. I know, Jonas said, softer now. But the world doesn't care about truth. Eli, not yet. That night, as the humans tried to sleep, a different kind of whisper moved through the alien district. Rena and Rill knelt before their elder Taran Vek. Their small heads bowed. They threatened the boy, Rena said, trembling. They called him guilty for helping us. The old Varakeen elder rested a hand on her shoulder. Humans fear what they don't understand, he said. But their fear may destroy something precious. Rill looked up. Then we must help him. Taran hesitated. If we interfere again, it could mean war. Then let it be war of kindness, Rena said fiercely. Not blades. The elder stared at the twins for a long time, the old light of hope flickering in his tired eyes. So young, he whispered. And yet braver than most kings. He turned toward the glowing city domes outside. Go, take this. He handed them a small crystal feather, symbol of his authority. If anyone stops you, show them this. And tell the boy. The warmth he gave is now shared by all. Hours later, Eli woke to soft tapping on the metal door. Jonas was asleep again, snoring quietly. Eli crept up and opened the door just a little. Two familiar faces smiled at him from the darkness. Rena. Rill, he whispered. They grinned. We had to come. You are in danger, Eli frowned. Danger? Your leaders, Rena said softly. They fear peace. They fear you. Rill stepped forward and placed the crystal feather in Eli's hand. Keep this safe. It is proof you are a friend of our people. Someday you will need it. Eli stared at the glowing feather, unsure what to say. Will I see you again? He asked. Rena smiled sadly. When the stars stopped fighting. Then before he could speak again, they were gone, swallowed by the fog. Eli closed the door, his small hands trembling as he looked at the glowing feather. He didn't know what it meant yet, but deep inside he felt it. Something had begun, something far bigger than a simple act of kindness, and far away. Both the human and alien command watched the same footage, replaying over and over the boy, the feather, the midnight visit. Each side whispered the same thought, though with different hearts, the child may be the key. The next morning began with shouting. The camp gates were locked, the guards armed, and the command banners of Commander Rusk flew above every shelter. Overnight, humans and aliens who had once exchanged food across the fence now stared at each other with fear again. Rumors said that alien scouts had been spotted near the fuel depot. Others whispered that the human fleet in orbit was preparing for defensive action. But the truth was smaller, simpler, born from one act of kindness that terrified the powerful. Inside his tent, Jonas packed what little they owned. "We're leaving this camp," he muttered. "Before they take you, Eli." Eli looked up, holding the glowing crystal feather. "But the twins said they'd come back." Jonas stopped. "Kid, they already brought enough trouble. The commander thinks you're some kind of spy." Eli frowned. "I'm just a boy." "Yeah," Jonas said bitterly. "That's what scares them most. You changed the story." Before Eli could ask what he meant, the door burst open. 2 soldiers stepped inside. "By order of Commander Rusk," one said, "the child must come with us for questioning." Jonas blocked the doorway. "He's 5. "Orders are orders," the soldier snapped. "Move aside." Jonas didn't. For a tense moment, no one breathed. Then Eli stepped forward. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'll go." They took him to the command tower at the edge of camp. The corridors smelled of cold metal and fear. Commander Rusk sat behind a table covered with glowing screens. "So you're the famous boy," Rusk said, leaning forward. "The aliens seem to like you." Eli didn't answer. He clutched the feather tightly. Rusk noticed it and smirked. "That thing, they say it's a royal symbol. Do you even know what you're holding?" Eli shook his head. "It means power," Rusk said. "It means they trust you more than any of us, and that makes you dangerous." He stood up, pacing slowly. "You don't understand politics, boy. A single wrong story can start a war. The aliens are manipulating you." Eli frowned. "They were just cold." Rusk slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. They don't do anything just for kindness. Everything has a reason. Everything has a cost." The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Then maybe you forgot how to be kind." For a moment, Rusk froze. He wanted to shout, but the words stuck. He turned away. "Take him back," he said finally. "Keep him under guard." That night, a storm rolled over Tarsus 9. The sky flashed with green lightning that cracked across the domes. Eli sat in the corner of his tent, watching rain drip through the ceiling. Jonas sat nearby, staring at the guards outside. "They won't let us leave now," he whispered. "We're prisoners again." Eli held the feather. It glowed brighter than before, almost pulsing with life. Suddenly it shimmered and projected a tiny blue image in the air. 2 familiar faces appeared. Rena and Real. "Eli," the voice said, echoing softly. "We know you are in danger. The humans plan to move you to the high command ship. They fear what you represent." Jonas leaned closer, shocked. "Is this a transmission?" Rena's image turned to him. "Yes. Elder Terran sends a message. Hold until dawn. Help is coming." Then the light faded, and the feather dimmed again. Jonas stared at Eli. What kind of help could they send? Eli didn't answer. Outside, thunder shook the ground. By morning, the guards were restless. A strange energy hummed through the air. People peeked out of shelters, feeling the tension. Then, a sound like a giant heartbeat rolled across the horizon. From the clouds, above 3 enormous ships emerged, sleek, silver, glowing with blue veins of light. The Varakeen Royal Fleet. Panic exploded. Alarms screamed. Commander Rusk ran to the tower balcony shouting, "All units, defensive positions." But the ships didn't open fire. Instead, one beam of light descended slowly to the ground, forming a glowing path that ended right at Eli's tent. Everyone froze. From the beam stepped Rena and Rill, flanked by royal guards in bright silver armor. The twins looked older somehow, stronger. Rena's voice carried over the camp like music. "We come not for war," she said, "but for the one who shared his warmth." Jonas stared, speechless. The humans lowered their weapons uncertainly. Commander Rusk shouted, "Don't let them near the boy." But it was too late. Eli had already stepped forward. The twins knelt before him, touching their foreheads to the ground. "You gave us life," Rill said softly. "Now our people give you protection." The humans watched, silent, torn between fear and awe. In that moment, under the stormy sky of Tarsus 9, a 5-year-old human stood between two worlds, while soldiers from both sides realized that neither had control anymore. Above them, the Varakeen flagship opened its massive doors. Light poured down like dawn breaking through war, and everyone knew. The next choice, whether peace or chaos, would begin with the smallest hands in the galaxy. Lightning danced across the sky like torn ribbons of fire. The storm over Tarsus 9 raged louder than the sirens in the camp below. Wind tore at tents, metal sheets clanged, and soldiers ran through mud shouting orders no one could hear. But through the chaos, a single beam of blue light cut through the clouds, still and calm, like the eye of a storm. It fell straight down into the human camp. Every head turned toward it. Commander Rusk stood on the watchtower, rain running down his face. "Hold positions," he roared. "Do not fire unless ordered." Below, Eli stood in front of his shelter, soaked but unafraid. He clutched the glowing feather close to his chest. The beam of light brightened, and from it, figures slowly appeared. Tall, shining, royal. Rena and Rill stepped out first, wrapped in ceremonial armor. Behind them came Elder Taran Vek, walking with a staff that glowed like living crystal. Gasps spread through the camp. Some soldiers aimed their rifles, others simply stared, unable to move. Jonas grabbed Eli's shoulder. "Stay back." Eli shook his head. "They're not here to fight." He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. His small figure looked fragile against the storm, yet every soldier felt the weight of that moment. The aliens halted a few paces away. Taran Vek's voice rolled like thunder, deep and clear. "This child showed mercy when your leaders preached hate. Tonight, that mercy shall not be punished," Commander Rusk shouted from the tower. "You are trespassing on human territory. Withdraw your fleet or face fire." The elder looked up at him calmly. "Then you would fire upon the only hope your kind has left." Rusk hesitated. His finger trembled on the trigger control. The ground trembled as one of the alien ships adjusted position, its engines glowing brighter, casting the entire camp in blue light. The soldiers' faces shone with fear and wonder. Rena stepped forward, kneeling before Eli. "The Council has seen your kindness," she said. "They sent us to protect you, and to remind humans what peace looks like." Eli blinked rain from his eyes. "But I'm just a boy." "You're the first," she whispered. "The first who didn't see an enemy." From behind, Jonas shouted, "This is madness, you'll start a war." Taran Vek turned to him. War already began the moment mercy was seen as a threat. A flash of lightning cut across the sky, followed by a booming crash. The storm roared louder. Commander Rusk barked into his communicator. "All ships target the lead alien vessel." But before he could give the final word, the feather in Eli's hands burst into bright light. The glow shot into the sky like a flare. The storm froze. The thunder stopped. The rain hung in the air like mist. Every machine, every weapon, every drone, all went silent. A voice filled the air, not from any mouth, but from everywhere at once. It was the voice of the Varakeen Queen, broadcasting from the royal ship above. "Enough," she said. No more children shall pay for the fear of the old. Her words echoed across the valley. This boy's kindness binds our people in truth. Any who raise arms against him, or the peace he represents, shall face both our fleets. The silence that followed was heavy and holy. Commander Rusk lowered his weapon. He looked down at Eli, standing in the rain, the small boy who had stopped 2 armies without lifting a hand. Then, slowly, he knelt. The first human officer to ever bow to a Varakeen decree. One by one, the soldiers followed. Rena and Rill bowed too, facing Eli. The boy trembled, not from fear but from the weight of what was happening. Taran Vek raised his staff. Tonight, the bloodline of hate ends, he declared. This camp shall become the first colony of peace where no child freezes alone. The beam of light widened, washing over the entire camp. Every shelter warmed. Every light flickered back to life. Humans and aliens stepped from their hiding places, blinking in disbelief. Jonas looked at Eli, tears in his eyes. Kid, what did you just do? Eli smiled faintly. I didn't do anything. We just shared warmth. As dawn broke, the storm cleared. The alien fleet hovered silently above, like guardians instead of conquerors. The camp, once divided by fences, now glowed with new energy and hope. And high, above, the Queen's final words drifted through the morning air, recorded forever in both human and alien history. Remember this night. The smallest hand can stop the greatest storm. The sun rose over Tarsus 9 for the first time without sirens, without gunfire, and without fear. The sky, once filled with smoke and storm, now glowed with soft gold. The air smelled of wet earth instead of ash. And in the middle of the camp, where 2 armies once pointed, weapons at each other, children, played. Some were human, some were Varakeen, and no one cared which was which. Eli sat on a crate near the old fence line, holding a small piece of cloth in his lap, his mother's blanket. It was patched and worn, but now embroidered with silver and blue symbols. The Varakeen elders had returned it to him, calling it the Blanket of Dawn. Jonas stood beside him, watching the skyships hover quietly above. You realize, he said softly, that your blanket did what politicians couldn't do in 50 years. Eli smiled. It was never about the blanket, Jonas, it was just being kind. Jonas laughed quietly. You sound older than me, kid. Eli shrugged. You get old faster when you stop hating. All around the camp, humans and aliens worked together. The old fence was torn down that morning, cut apart not by soldiers but by children from both sides. They cheered as the final pole fell and the crowd erupted into applause. Elder Taran Vek and Commander Rusk stood side by side, watching silently. No peace treaty was signed that day. No formal deal was made. But something stronger than paper had been built. Trust. The elder turned to Rusk. You humans have a saying, he said. Out of small sparks come great fires. This boy lit one. Rusk nodded slowly. His voice was rough. We almost destroyed him for it. Then perhaps your kind will now learn to protect what you once feared, Taran said. Rusk looked down at his gloved hands. Maybe we both will. By midday, the Varakeen fleet had descended closer. Massive carriers hovered above the settlement, releasing supplies, food, water, power cells. No weapons, no soldiers. Everywhere, people came out to help unload them. Laughter began to replace suspicion. The air hummed with the sound of rebuilding. Near the old command post, Rena and Rill found Eli again. They ran to him smiling, carrying something long and wrapped in silk. Rena knelt down, her golden eyes bright. The Queen sends this, she said. Eli unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small banner woven from silk and steel. At its center was the image of 2 hands, one human, one Varakeen, holding the same blanket. Below it were engraved words in both languages. From warmth, peace. Rill grinned. It will hang in both worlds. A reminder. Eli touched the banner gently. I just wanted them not to freeze. Rena smiled. Sometimes the galaxy only needs one heart to remember what warmth feels like. That evening, as the new settlement gathered for a feast, Elder Taran stood on the platform beside Jonas Rusk. And Eli, Torches and crystal lamps lit up the faces of thousands, human and alien side by side. Terran raised his staff. "Tonight we honor the smallest act of mercy," he said. "A boy's kindness to 2 lost children. Let this ground be sacred to both our peoples." He gestured, and Rena and Rill stepped forward to hang the silk banner between 2 tall poles. As it unfurled, a hush fell over the crowd. The wind caught it, and the light of the twin moons made it shine like silver fire. Jonas whispered to Eli, "You'll be in history books for this." Eli shook his head. "I just did what my mom would have done." Years later, the camp of Tarsus 9 became a city, the City of Dawn, home to both species. The first human-alien school stood where Eli's tent once was. Children from both worlds learned together there. Beneath the framed blanket that started it all, visitors would pause before it, listening to the story told by every guide, every elder, and every teacher. Long ago, a human boy saw 2 alien children freezing in the dark. He gave them his only blanket. That blanket became a bridge between stars. And if you walked through the city at night, you could still see the same boy, older now, walking beside his friends Rena and Rill, laughing under the glow of alien lanterns. Sometimes, he'd glance up at the sky and whisper softly, "Mom, they're warm now and high above." On the royal ship orbiting the world, the Queen of the Varakeen would record her final note about humanity. "The humans are strange. They build peace not with power, but with compassion. Their warmth burns brighter than any sun." The story of Tarsus 9 spread across systems, told in both tongues, sung in both songs. And across the galaxy, whenever peace felt impossible, someone would whisper, "Remember the boy in the blanket." Because that night, on a frozen world far from home, a 5-year-old human taught the stars what kindness truly meant.